am really excited to introduce our next session, Meet TV, your next performance channel, no really. And for this session, we'll have Dave Morgan, founder and CEO at Simulmedia, and Robert Toss, Chief Growth Officer at 1-800-Flowers, Inc. They're going to dispel some myths about TV and demonstrate how TV can be used as a performance marketing channel. All right, over to you.
Thanks, Veronica. Robert, good afternoon.
Hello, David. How are you?
I'm well. So we're going to talk about TV, we're going to talk about performance marketing, and we're going to talk about 1-800-Flowers and Harry and Davis. But first, I think it'd be great if you could give a little bit of background about yourself, because when people talk to me about the prototype or archetype of the modern marketer, I frequently use you. And so, don't be embarrassed, but, we go way back. I mean, I'm thinking it's now more than 20 years ago when we met. I think you had most recently then been running sales at Commerce One, which only those older folks would remember. But that was basically like going to be the Shopify of its day. I mean, that was the first scale platform to support e-commerce companies. Tell a little bit about your journey that's brought you here to today.
Thanks, David. Wow, you're going real far back, aren't you? It feels like a lifetime ago. I've had a very, very fortunate career. I've been in an opportunity to work with some of the best brands in the world, some of the most innovative digital companies in the world, and technology companies. As you mentioned, I started my career really in the technology world and moved up the ranks from various product, marketing, sales, operations positions, and ended up in the digital world. And, obviously you and I worked together back in the day at Dakota and at 24/7. And then I went on to run digital at JPMorgan Chase. I was CMO of a tech company, and then went to McKinsey and became partner in their marketing practice, where I spent a ton of my time working with the largest consumer brands in the world. And I really was there because I wanted to see how they did it. What were their secret sauce? How did they measure marketing? How did they use data? How did they use digital to transform their businesses? And it was an amazing experience. And then recently, about almost a year now, I've joined 1-800-Flowers, and I'm the Chief Growth Officer, and excited to use my digital data chops to help us lead our marketing and analytics and corporate strategy functions. And fortunate to work with the plethora of amazing brands that we have. People know the 1-800-Flowers brand that's been around for about 40 years. Started off as a little florist on the Upper East Side, and today is probably the most prominent floral brand in the world. We also have a bunch of great food brands, Harry and David, which we'll talk a little bit more about, but Cheryl's Cookies. We have a premier plethora of amazing food, snacks, proteins, Stockyards, the Popcorn Factory, Simply Chocolate, Wolferman's, if you love muffins. I mean, we have a little bit of everything for everybody. And then most recently, we acquired Personalization Mall. And real excited about our portfolio and what 1-800-Flowers has to bring in a world where we've been all cooped up and seeing people needing to express themselves and stay connected with their loved ones. We've been really fortunate to be a part of that journey.
Awesome. Well, we're going to be jumping into some specific work that I think people are interested to hear about, but I'm going to spend a few minutes teeing up a couple slides to give some background. First and foremost, one of the reasons we're talking about TV and we're talking about linear TV is that in spite of the headlines sometimes, it's actually alive and well. And it's certainly not as big as it was, and it never will be again, but it's always important to remind people that in spite of some diminution of total viewing, the average American is still watching, more than 4 hours of television a day. And if you start adding the connected TV, where people are watching streaming, it's even going up more, and it's even closer to 5.5 hours. But it's what people do more than anything else next to sleeping and working, and pretty close to how much time they spend eating. And linear TV, while it is starting to share the TV screen with streaming and ad-supported video on demand when it comes to how do you reach people when they're watching these large screens with sight, sound, and motion, it's still almost 9 times bigger and the total amount of reach and that it's able to deliver. And so, as much as we'd like to get on as fast as possible towards a lot of pure digital techniques that can give us the targeting and the closed loop and some of the deep measurements, it's really impossible to ignore TV when you're really trying to talk to an awful lot of people and you want to talk to them quickly. And the holy grail that so many have been pursuing for the longest time, and for folks like Robert and I that go back 20, 25 years in this business, it's really how do you start bringing them together? Can you bring the best of digital and the best of legacy TV together? And how do you try to bring data-driven approaches into the linear TV world? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so Robert, I've got this slide up, just trying to give a little bit of background about what you were confronting soon after joining, and maybe you can give a little background, like why TV started popping up on your radar screen soon after joining 1-800-Flowers, and maybe even talk about the Harry and David brand specifically here.
Yeah, listen, David, I mean, I think as you and I have chatted in the past, I think that first of all marketers need to have a diverse, multi-channel, omni-channel plan to reach their customers. It is not one channel. There's not one single silver bullet that any of us can rely on to grow our businesses and reach our customers. And the second piece of that is that the context in the engagement is more meaningful today than it's ever been, in my opinion. I think understanding how each of the channels work together in that journey to nurture customers and bring them information to help them understand your brands and your brand stories is really paramount to the marketing craft. As I think of going back to, I joined 1-800-Flowers a month before COVID. And as I was getting my feet wet and COVID hit and was looking at where we had spent our marketing dollars, and as Mother's Day approached, which is when we first started working together, it was really obvious to me that we had a gap in our channel strategy. We had a gap in where we were connecting, and realizing that television and that lean-in experience was a gap for us and needed to be part of our mix, and why we obviously started working with you. But the second part, which is probably even more important than the first, is that the data said that we had to work in that channel. The data said that our customers were spending time there, and being able to use our CRM data to be able to connect to television just like we would in digital is an important part of our toolkit. And I think as marketers now, and I've been preaching this for years, even when McKinsey and so forth, was that we now have access to data like we've never had before. Being able to put that into practice across all my channels is fundamental. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but man, it really is. The tools out there are very different today than they were even 5 years ago. And how we go about building our media plans, how we go about building our customer strategies, how we test and learn, and how we use that information to continually make optimizations and enhancements. It no longer needs to be, hey, let's run a campaign and we'll see you in 6 months and see what worked and what didn't. We can make a lot more iterative and real-time changes across all the channels, including TV. And I think that this is part of our standard toolkit, and we're excited to continue. We saw some great success, but I knew we would. And I think we're on a great path where we're completely reimagining our go-to-market strategies and how the channels work together in a more integrated way. I think there's a lot of myths out there sometimes about the brand team over here and the performance team over there, and I just don't believe that. I think they have to be integrated. I think you have to have a measurement framework that allows you to measure the channels appropriately, and see how they work together. So, as we run our video strategies, we see direct correlation to purchase. We see direct correlation to search engagement, digital engagement, over a period of time. And we can track those things in a way that I think is a standard part of our toolkit now.
Excellent. So what I'd like to do right now is I'd love to put up one of your creatives, and I think maybe we'll see your winner creative, because let's make it really relevant now, because I think that, when you're talking TV, you really have to get a sense of the sight, sound, and motion that it delivers. So if we could show that, please.
For the better part of a century, Harry and David has been making gourmet gifts that bring people together to share traditions and make new memories, to celebrate friends and family, old and new, to bring us all closer, even when we're apart. No matter when and no matter where, Harry and David believes that life is a gift best shared. Harry and David, life is a gift. Share more.
I love that spot. It's such a good spot to bring us to life. I mean, it tells our story of heritage. It tells our story of our products. And it just resonated so well with our target and really allowed us to have great success over the holiday season.
Yeah, that's so. What I love is that you can both capture this. When you spoke earlier about that, it's no longer a divided world of the brand on one side and the performance on the other side. I put up a little bit of some of the performance dashboard from one of the campaigns that we worked on here, and it seems to me I'm looking at a digital campaign here. Reached 88 million unique households, 22,000+ sessions to the confirmation page. 2x return on ad spend. I'm going to go to the next slide, and then I want you to talk about it a little bit. And then even the capacity now to be looking at building baselines of previous work and current work and looking at the impact of the TV advertising impacts, not just on what is driving down the funnel, but how it's affecting your search and the search advertising you're doing. Robert, can you give us a sense of how you use this kind of information inside your organization?
Dave, I'm a little puzzled. Doesn't everybody have this?
I wish.
I got to be honest with you. I'm being a little facetious, but not much, honestly. I mean, this is the new normal. This is what modern marketing is all about, is being data-driven and understanding how to interpret the results of all of our channels, including TV and specifically linear, and being able to realize the learnings from that and understanding how to match those things across our other channels. It doesn't do us very much good if we're buying impact video and we're not driving the right customers to our engagement channels and that they're not converting to the degrees that they should be. We might be, we too often miss that connection, candidly. So we use the data across the board. Our search team, our SEO team, our paid media team, all are connected at that integrated level to be able to understand these insights and work together to make better optimizations. There's obviously, it's easy to get hung up with last touch today. And I think that's a drug that a lot of marketing organizations use because it is easy to measure that way. And listen, we have that as one of our measures, but it's not the only measure. We have a multi-touch attribution system. We have customer analytics that we put forth. So that's why matching the right customer target to what's driving the engagements that we want is really the secret sauce of using this together. And your channel is no different to me than display and being able to have that access to information. And it's table stakes, to be honest, Dave. I mean, this is how we run modern marketing in my mind. And it allows us to better plan. It allows us to better optimize. It allows us to help the right customers engage with us the way they want. We're a customer-driven business. Our job is to make that as easy as possible and make sure we're reminding them, nudging them in the places that matter to them the most.
So Robert, you have some advantages in that you're a company that was born as a direct-to-consumer company. I mean, we think the D2C revolution is a relatively new one, but obviously when Jim McCann came up with the idea to basically create an affinity phone number for the flower business and then essentially license and franchise that out and then build this extraordinary global brand, it had not been done. It was not being done. And, it transformed the floral business. It also created a whole new kind of marketing platform that has a lot of similarities to the web world today, decades and decades before. So you have some of that history. And obviously, you were just most recently a partner at McKinsey in digital marketing operations. So your job was to go around and talk to people about how they could do this kind of marketing. What's the kind of counsel that you offer to some people that don't necessarily have both the kind of pedigree that your organization has and thinking about being focused on the customer and actually having someone who's been expert at this and teaching others to do it? Like how do you think others can follow your path?
Yeah, Dave, I mean, obviously spent almost 4 years at McKinsey and really trying to help clients think through the big questions. I think the first thing I always say to clients is that they need to lean in. Many of these capabilities have been outsourced and to some great agencies out there, but I think clients have a responsibility to really lean in on the data side and understand it. And I think they have an obligation to actually shape it, because it's about strategies you use to make the data sets better. It's a strategy to help enhance and enrich those things to help your agency be more successful, candidly. It's very much a partnership. That we work with Camelot on the Harry and David and food side of our house, and have seen great success in that connective tissue really being a lever. I don't think you can just expect this to get done by outsourcing. I think we believe, and as you said, it's part of our heritage to be a data-driven, customer-centric organization. So we believe we have to own this, and this is IP to us and secret sauce. Yeah. I think that the second piece is that, as you invest in leaning in on the data side, you need the capabilities, you need data sets, you need tools, you need marketing technology and those types of things to be able to activate. And then the third thing I say is that, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is that, and what I was baffled at in a lot of my McKinsey world is that people want or need to change the way they go to market. We need to radically reimagine our testing parameters. The idea of those audience segments that you and I talk ad nauseum about, one size does not fit all in our creative. One size does not fit all with our marketing communications. And being able to apply that at scale to the different channels is fundamental to seeing the impact that you and I have talked about.
So how do you drive these kinds of things? Because obviously what you're talking about is being able to attack it in a way that's quite different than a lot of legacy organizations that attack things and with different kinds of supporting organizations. What are the kinds of things that you're looking for in your creative services partners? And you talked about Camelot. Like, what do you look to for Camelot today that's different than, let's say, when you were running digital marketing at JP Morgan Chase, that you looked to, let's say, Zenith differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a collaborative effort, first and foremost. I think we need to have a common data set that we're all operating off of. I think in the past, it's always been, well, they're going to hand me a pretty PowerPoint and show me how smart my campaigns were. I think that day is gone. We need to have interactive data sets that we both operate off of and can make joint decisions on. And then second, as I said, the testing piece is something I can't stress enough. I feel like too much of our approach, and even not just media agencies, but our creative agencies and our creative teams need to be part of an integrated platform to talk and be able to test their way into learnings. As we think of one of our business objectives, as we continue to grow our businesses, how do we make sure we reach younger segments? How do we make sure we resonate? We have a core Harry and David audience that has been buying, pairs for a long time. We obviously want to reach them, but the message to them is probably going to be different than to somebody younger. Well, that takes work and effort, not just at a media planning level, a creative level, but a full execution level. And I think it's really paramount that you bring those pieces together.
So, Robert, talk about the internal work you have to do. A lot of people look at, the person running marketing and growth and analytics as, how they work externally. But how does the kind of work that you're doing here help you drive the business and resource your business units and marketing strategies internally?
Well, Dave, like I was saying, I think that it requires us to bring a new discipline to our go-to-market planning as we work with our merchandisers. One of the things that allows us that by having this infrastructure in place, it allows us to make timely decisions. As we started to sell out of certain products, we could make alterations and work with our supply chain to address some of those things. Whereas in the past, that would be next season kind of stuff. And I think that's a change in mindset as we work in this, just-in-time kind of world where we can make optimization decisions across our marketing strategies because of amazing data sets. But that requires a discipline and a very agile marketing approach to it, which, I think is fundamental to sort of this modern marketing world that we're talking about. We have daily huddles during season where we review performance metrics, we review key optimizations, key channel data as a team and make adjustments appropriately because we have this information with all of our partners on a call regularly. That's a new way of working for many organizations. and requires a very different way of thinking.
Interesting. One of the things as we're getting close to time here, I recall when you first talked to me about this, you were talking about the fact that Harry and David's was really just, the brand was really surfacing because you actually had people looking to you for, a lot of the loyalists and new people looking to you for groceries, and as if it was like, and it was only my recent isolation up here in the Catskills that I was like really desiring some fresh fruit, and I'm like, I need a Harry and David's basket, and now I understand it.
I know a guy.
Yeah, exactly. I know a guy. What's the one last takeaway you'd like to leave people with here that, if I look at what you did, your hero's journey and having a challenge, going back into TV, your company hadn't been in 5 years, and doing it in a digital way, what was the one thing that came out of it, or the two things?
Well, listen, Dave, I mean, you were talking about the insights that we got from our program, and one of it was around self-consumption. What's interesting is that as we messaged and learned, we saw the customers were not only buying our food products as gifts, which is fabulous and what we're well known for, but people were buying them for self-consumption. We have a whole Harry and David gourmet business. I mention it because it's a learning for us. It's an area where we're now leaning in. It's one of our fastest growing businesses. And it's because of data like this. It's because of having the toolkit that we have at our disposal. And I think that the biggest message that I want to leave you with is that marketers need to lean in and expect more from all their partners. They need to own this data like it's their own and work very diligently to enrich it, make it better, change the processes to use the data. It's not just looking at a pretty report or PowerPoint. It's actually digging in and peeling that onion to get those insights and change the way you operate to take advantage of the data. In our business, we're very seasonal. So we are actively looking at this data set of how to apply it now to the next big occasion, but also how to plan for next year with our merchandising teams, and all the learnings of that is substantial. It's a different way of working. And I think that marketing teams have to break down the silos in their organization to take advantage of it.
Excellent. Robert, thank you so much. I really appreciate your spending time with us this afternoon and that great lesson. And I'll tell you, the self-gifting thing was awesome. I actually did write a note to myself with the gift from my wife and daughters.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me today. Great talk always.